Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast, where we've got a modest weekend of racing for you. We're in between big meetings. I suppose the next big one on the horizon is Irish Champions Weekend. That's the 10th and the 11th of September. We'll be previewing that, looking forward to that, but that's a bit of a way off. So this weekend, we are looking at the ITV action in the main between Beverley and Goodwood. We've also got a race from Newmarket to look at. That is Donn McClean, Steve Jones and I. Don, how's things?
Good, thanks, Tom. Yeah, all good. Had a bit of a break there, so all refreshed and ready to go again.
Good man. How did you get on at York, Steve? All good?
I was on a few that I thought should have won and didn't, and then when it was all getting a bit despondent, I backed a 25-1 winner, or sorry, 26.0 winner.
Well said.
Which won by about the width of a fag paper, and then had to endure a steward's inquiries.
Ah, yes. I remember. You were unlucky with King of Stars, but don't worry, because it'll happen this weekend, he says with confidence. Let me take you through the usual preamble before the pod. First of all, if you haven't seen The Other Side of the Fence with Ollie Murphy, it's out now on YouTube. That's episode 1. It's about an 8-minute watch, and it's really excellent content showing you behind the scenes at the sales and what goes into buying a horse. And Ollie, who's looking forward to an excellent season over jumps when it kicks off proper, talks you through how to get hold of a horse with his bloodstock agent dad, and you know he's a good guy to go to the sales with as well. So have a look at that; it's well worth doing so. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also to give us a review up to 5 stars on your preferred podcast app. And head to insights.matchbook.com after this or during this, whenever you like, for a recap of all the best bets, and that's across all podcast platforms. The Beverley racing is decent. We're going to head to the Beverley Bullet, but first of all, let's go to the 130, which is the Joe Rowntree Memorial Handicap, and I have just got prices up in front of me. Bear with me here. So Outrun the Storm heads the betting at 4.0, 5.5 for Majestic. Hathlul is 7.5, 10.0 Barney's Bay. 11.0 for It Just Takes Time, and bigger prices the rest. It's actually one of the more competitive races we're looking at, and we've got different views between the three of us. Steve, I'll start with you. Tangled.
Yeah, Tangled. The negative, we'll start with a wide draw, but I think they'll go a reasonable pace in this and should be able to slot in somewhere. And Tangled does seem to like these sort of tracks. He's got a real good record at Beverley, although you've got to go back a couple of years for his 2 course and distance wins. They show that he goes well here, and he won twice at Carlisle last year, which is another track with a stiff uphill finish, and he does seem to like those kind of things. He's been running okay recently. He ran 3rd at Pontefract last time, where he missed the break a little bit, and that's never ideal at Pontefract, and that was over a mile, and before that he'd run at Ripon. But the dry summer hasn't been particularly great for Tangled. He's got form on a lot softer ground, and although he handles it, I think the drop of rain that they've had, just taking the sting out of it, will do him a bit of good. He's also, he's getting on a bit. He's 7 years old. He ran very well last in June in cheap pieces, when only beaten a neck over a bit further at Beverley. And he's now trying a visor for the first time. And if that works, he's dangerously well handicapped. He's a horse that was winning off higher marks last summer at Carlisle. And I just think everything might come together at one of his favourite tracks. And the race title, Joe Rowntree Memorial Handicap. Joe was a tremendous member of the press, a real good guy that I only ever used to see him at York, but he was always tremendous company. So it's good that Beverley are naming a race after him, because he was one of the good guys.
Are you worried about the draw, Steve, for Tangled?
Yeah, a little bit. It's wide enough, isn't it? But it's one of those races where there should be enough pace in there, I think, to get Tangled slot in. He just needs to get into a rhythm. The one of the likely favourites, Majestic, likes to go forward, and there's a few others that I think will take them on. And there's a few that like to sit right at the back, which I don't think is ideal at Beverley. So hopefully he'll be able to slot in somewhere. I mean, it's not ideal. You wouldn't pick 12, would you? But it's not as bad as being drawn very wide at Goodwood, which we'll come to later on.
The draw and the pace in the race was my sort of way in, because there were a few quite prominent in the betting, which I don't necessarily love their style of racing for here. I mean, Outrun the Storm will probably be absolutely fine. And I don't think Majestic will be too far away. But, you know, Hathlul tends to be pretty patiently ridden. Barney's Bay has been as well. I came down to Antagonize, who I think is the most likely front runner, and was just a bigger price than I thought he should be, with an eye on possibly trading in the run. I don't know. I don't always. In fact, I don't often. But it wasn't a race I was too excited about from a win perspective. But I really, like 7.5, this horse has got a big chance of staying there. I think the trip should be absolutely ideal. He is a course winner as well. And I just quite like the angle coming back in trip. The discouraging thing is the fact that he was a monkey before the race last time. He had to be walked down to the start of Doncaster, and he hung, and he just looked, he looked ungainly. But I think with the pace angle, the fact that he's most likely to be on the front end, I thought he was worth playing at 15.0 Antagonize, win and place, and I may well put in a little order there to get out if he came down to very, very low single figures. Antagonize for me, but not a race I was hugely excited about from a betting perspective. Don?
Yeah, like that, Tom. I'll take Handicap, but I think Outrun the Storm deserves his place at the top of the market. He's a forward going type. He can be a bit free going. On his penultimate run at Leicester, he missed the break, which wasn't ideal. He was kind of keen and free in the race. Then his run before that at Leicester, he made all the running over 7 furlongs on fast ground and kept on well to just get home. And then last time at Newmarket, he went forward, but Lord Rapscallion went forward as well, and the two of them just took each other on. They kind of they didn't help each other. It was a significant negative for both. Lord Rapscallion faded out of it, but Outrun the Storm actually kept on really well, and the order came down the near side. He was William Buick's 5th winner on the day. But Outrun the Storm, I just thought whenever they came to him, it looked like he was going to be swallowed up, but he kept on really well on the far side, and I think that augurs well for his attitude. I think if he's not taken on to the extent that he was taken on the last day by Lord Rapscallion, then that he should be fine. There is plenty of pace in the race. Majestic, like he made all when he won at Pontefract last time, and he's a danger. He's a progressive horse. Obviously, that was a novice stakes the last time. He had a notional mark of 79 going into it. He only got £3 for that, which on the face of it, for a 5.5 length window, and that was the stakes, you thought that's more than fair. But actually, the race has worked out very early since the horses they beat, they've all been beaten since. So I think he's vulnerable. I think Outrun the Storm, by contrast, he can be marked up a fair bit on his run the last day. He only got £1 for that, which is fair. And I think his drawn stall 6 is okay. Again, you'd prefer to be drawn a wee bit tighter, but it's fine. And again, his running style is good and good to firm ground. Should be perfect for him. So yeah, I just think that there could be a wee bit more in him based on a £1 hike for his run at Newmarket the last day, from which he can be marked up.
So Antagonize, Outrun the Storm, and Tangled, 3 shouts going up, and a couple of those win and place prices if that's how you wanted to play it. That's the opener at Beverley. We're going to move on in ITV race card order, and a decent looking renewal of the Prestige coming up next. So this is the 150 at Goodwood, with 9 currently going to post. The Godolphin Filly Fairy Cross heads the betting, who is 4.0. Bright Diamond is a point bigger at 5.0. Then Queen Ollie is the same price. Brige is in there at 9.0, 10.0 for the Queen's Horse and Motisfont, and then we're slightly bigger prices. Motisfont then, Steve, I'm interested. Win and place?
If the price dictates. I didn't think Motisfont was that sort of price, to be honest. I thought we were looking at about 8.0, something like that. What
did I quote you as, 10?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening.
No, 9.0. No, sorry, you're right. 9.0.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice price. Yeah, I think, or she is, but more to the point. I like her because she travelled really, really well when she won her maiden. That was at Force Last. That was on good to firm ground. And although the form wouldn't be absolutely fantastic. I don't think it's too bad. The second is a nice enough horse, and there's a few in there that further back. But then next time, straight into the deep end in the Sweet Solara, and I thought she ran really, really well for a horse having only her second start. I don't think that's an easy thing to do, is to step in from one maiden win and then straight into a Group 3 like that. And she ran really, really well. She was much further back than the two that finished in front of her, Lakota Sue and Dandy Alice. And my main angle in is that she's got this good form. She travels really well, but I don't think she wants the fast ground. I think and it's going to be softer, even though it'll probably dry out a bit at Goodwood. It'll be on the soft side, I would imagine. And looking at her pedigree, and looking at the way she races, I think she's going to be better on softer ground. She really curls her legs up. She's not throwing them out like you would expect of a fast ground horse. And I thought at Newmarket, she might even have been feeling the ground a little bit. So with that behind her, she's got the rails draw in stall 1, which you don't want to be drawn too high at Goodwood, even on soft ground. So hopefully she can get a nice position, and she travels like a really quality filly. So you've got to take a few things on trust, but I think she's going to be very, very competitive at this level.
Okay, what ground are you working on, Steve, for Goodwood? Just sort of good, no extremes.
Just on the easy side, I think it's good to soft at the moment, but it'll dry out because obviously it's been a dry summer, and I'd imagine it'll dry out probably to good to soft good or good to soft, but I don't anticipate being fast ground.
All right, Don and I are in agreement with David Loughnane's filly. Don.
Yeah, I just think she should be shorter than she is, Tom. I think she should nearly be favourite. She's got probably the best form going into the race. Her run in the Duchess of Cambridge last time was very good when she finished third behind Mauge and Lazoo. Mauge came out and ran pretty well in the Lola Stakes. Next time, Lazoo went and won the Princess Margaret Stakes at Ascot next time, when she had Breege well behind her in third place. And Queen Ollie, on her run in the Albany Stakes, you wouldn't have thought that the step up and trip was what she wanted, because she travelled well towards the near side. She looked a likely winner actually at the 2 furlong marker, but I think she was kind of a bit isolated. Now, look, Meditate was isolated a wee bit as well on the far side, but she's gone and enhanced the form since as well. She won the Debutante Stakes Group 2 race at the Kerr there last weekend. But Queen Ollie, she just kind of flattened out. Maybe it was a lack of pace, about a furlong and a half out that caught her out, and then she kept on to finish fourth in the end. She wasn't beaten that far in the Albany. It was probably a step forward last time in the Duchess of Cambridge in a race that's working out well. And her dam's a sister to Tiger Moth, so there's plenty of stamina on her dam side. She's by no name never, but the step up to 7 furlongs, it's definitely worth a try. She should get it all right, and she might even improve for it, given her pedigree. And look, she's a likely race filly, like they all are. But I think she's got that rock solid group race form on the board. And Fairy Cross, you have to be concerned with her. Obviously, she ran well the last day when she only got run down by Dance on the Grass close home. She was a bit keen early on, and the pair of them finished clear. But I just think that she's a wee bit shorter than she should be. Bright Diamond, you have to respect her as well. On her only run, she was a bit of a revelation. She was weak in the market that day at Newmarket as well. She won her maiden by 9 lengths. So there's no knowing how good she could be coming from Carl Burke's yard. Obviously, she has to be respected. But I think on form, Tom, Queen Ollie is the bet.
Yeah, I definitely thought the Godolphin filly and Queen Ollie have achieved enough to suggest that the Burke filly, for example, is up against it. For she should be very good. I really like Charlie Appleby's filly's form from last time, because I think Dance in the Grass is a very, very nice horse. But I was a bit surprised to see she's officially rated, I think, £4 superior to Queen Ollie, because I think Queen Ollie's achieved a bit and done it over what looks an inadequate trip. Like you said, there's bundles of stamina on her dam side. She obviously handles quick ground, so if you were being picky, I wouldn't want it much easier than good, but I'm not too worried about that. I thought I was surprised she wasn't vying for favouritism anyway. I could make a case for her being a point shorter, I thought, on what she's achieved. And that, as you say, that Princess Margaret form looks very strong from last time with Lazou and Morge coming out and running well subsequently. So, I thought Queen Ollie should be a good bit shorter. For all I do fear the Godolphin filly, I think what she's achieved over 6 has been pretty good, and she should definitely improve for the step up in trip. All right, let's kick on. We're going back to Beverley, the 205, the Silver Cup Handicap. And Weight to Excel heads the betting at 3.0. 3.5 for Post Impressionist. Kitsune Power is 4.5. Forgivable 10.0. Knightswood 10.0. It's 15.0 and bigger the rest. Goodness, Don, we agree again. This is
we do
verging on embarrassing. He's the obvious one, isn't he? Should definitely improve for the step up to 10 furlongs. Was a touch unlucky last time in what I think is probably the strongest bit of form coming into this. The Britannia's the Britannia, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I definitely thought he looked outpaced, and you get a lot of horses that are going for that because it's the Britannia over a stiff mile that are 3-year-olds that just are crying out for further. And I thought he was one of those. His Notting win prior to that was very good. I thought he'd be favourite, to be honest. I guess Weight to Excel's on a big old run, but when I made the selection, there was no market, and I thought, well, that'll probably be favourite. I'll just see, and he's third in.
Yeah, all of that. Echo all of that. As well as that, like I said, the run of Goodwood the last day, he was well back early on. He was drawn wide out in stall 10. And while there was a cutaway that day, and it did open up a wee bit towards the far side, but he was checked out. Gero made his ground from the rear as well, and kind of moved a bit to his right whenever he was making his ground. And Ray Dawson just had to snatch him up, just had to check his run a wee bit and bring him out wide. And after doing that, he finished off his race really strongly. And as you say, Tom, that was 9 furlongs, to step up to 10. That should be a positive for him. Gero has been pretty well beaten since, but he missed the break that day, and he was well back early on. And the 4th Dutch Decoy has come out 2 runs later, so last time, and won at Newmarket. So the form of the race has worked out well. A £4 hike for Kitsune Power, I think, is more than fair. He's nicely drawn in stall 3. And look, on his form this season, he won well at Leicester first time. He was really impressive in winning at Nottingham back in early June. And exactly as you say, Tom, the run in the Britannia, you can always allow a horse a run in the Britannia. And he was only beaten 6 lengths in the end. He wasn't beaten that far. He was a big price that day. So yeah, I think he comes into the race with a massive chance. Weight to Excel looked good in winning at Ripon. He probably won with a wee bit more in hand than the 1.5 length winning margin. But it was a 7-horse race. The 6 horses that finished behind him have all come out and been beaten since, and a couple of them pretty well beaten. Post Impressionist, he's high in the market, but his last 2 runs, they've just been disappointing after a good run at Newcastle when he was second behind Elder Algaroff. So yeah, I think there are plenty of positives about Kitsune Power and a couple of negatives about some of his main rivals.
You sitting this one out, Steve, or will you have a go at the end at Post Impressionist?
Well, it depends on the price, doesn't it? Like Don said, he's been bitterly disappointing his last 2 starts. I think you can forgive him his Royal Ascot run because he was held right out in the rear. He had a wide-ish draw, but they dropped him right out. And he was hampered a few times, so he kept going further and further back. And so I'm not convinced that that is anything to worry about. And last time at Chester, again, he was further behind than he needed to be. Really, it was a messy race, dominated sort of by horses that raced prominently and got more daylight. He didn't get much daylight. He could be just a disappointing horse. He's got a tongue time for the first time. It would be like one last go kind of territory, but he'd have to drift a bit in the betting for me to be interested.
Okay, fair enough. 3.5 currently. So keep an eye on the odds. Would you have what price would you have in mind, Steve, or not really?
Oh, if he went to 4.5, I'd probably be tempted into something, or maybe even 4.3.
Went to sort of 21.0, I'd have a go. Let me tell you about the welcome offer. If you don't know about it yet, where have you been? It's the £30 welcome offer with money back as a free bet if your first bet loses. For new customers only, the full terms and conditions are on the Matchbook website, but I'll run you through the stipulations. You place your first bet, and if it loses, you will get your stake refunded as a free bet up to £30. You've got to use the bonus code Insights30, Insights30 to take advantage of that. And as I say, week in, week out, you're more often than not, and a lot more often than not, going to be getting better odds with the Matchbook Exchange because of the nature of the exchange. And so if you fancy anything big, a football team or whatever it is, perhaps a horse, and you want to have a bet up to £30, if that doesn't win, you will get your stake refunded to you as a free bet up to that £30 limit. Check out the full terms and conditions on the Matchbook website. Okay, we're going to go to Beverley for the we're going to go to the 225 at Goodwood. I'm glad everyone's paying attention. Because we've just done the one at Beverley. This is a decent little race, this, I thought. I'll give you prices in a sec. Don, you can come in first of all with Lyndon B, who I can tell you actually is 7.5 for Lyndon B.
Yeah, I think that's big enough, Tom. I know he's a bit of an in and out performer, but I think a couple of keys to him. First of all, he comes into the race on the back of 2 good runs. He was only just beaten at Bath on his penultimate run, and then last time at Goodwood, he was good in winning Goodwood as well. He seems to go particularly well at Goodwood, which I just think when a horse who's a bit in and out happens upon a track at which he goes well and has never run a bad race, then I think it's significant. He's run there 3 times. He's finished 3rd, 2nd, and 1 last time. And the last day, he was drawn 14. And as we know, Steve was saying, a wide draw at Goodwood over 7 furlongs or a mile, it's not a positive. And he was back in the field early on. He quickened up smartly. He showed a nice turn of foot, and he went to the line strongly. I thought he won with a fair bit more in hand than the winning margin. He won by a length in the end, but I thought that was he just the way that he won. He seemed he travelled like a likely winner from about a furlong out, and then fulfilled the potential that he was showing through the race. The handicapper gave him £5 for it, but that only takes him up to a mark of 97. He's 1 off 90, so I think he's still potentially a well handicapped horse. And look, he's a horse that's had plenty of running, but just think back at Goodwood, and it was fast ground the last day, but he can handle goodish ground as well. And just a run like that coming into the race with a horse like him, I think it's a big positive. Look, you have to respect Orban. He won really well at Goodwood the last time he was there. Won the Golden Mile, beat a stable companion Blue for You, who went and won well there at York the other day. A race in which Orban was a wee bit unlucky, actually. He got a bit trapped on the far side, and Jason Watson had to switch him out, and he finished off his race well. But he's just creeping up the handicap. He was racing off under a double penalty that day of £12, and the handicap just left him on that mark. So £12 higher than the mark off which he won at Goodwood, which I think is high enough for a horse. He's popular, and understandably so, but he's going short enough for the fact that he's racing off a £12 higher mark. Russ Cullen, you're waiting for him to rediscover his form. It's just been a bit disappointing his last couple of runs, but I think Lyndon B, yeah, I think 7.5 about him is more than fair.
You touched on something there with Orban, and he won the Golden Mile out of stall 2. He's drawn 1 here. I don't know whether they're going to have a cutaway in place or not, which they did at the Goodwood meeting, although not, I don't think, for that Goodwood race, come the Friday, that race. But the point being, if he's drawn 1, given his style, he's going to have to be ridden for luck. And I suppose that just worries me a little bit about him at the top of the betting. The one I came down on was the Turpinator, who's looked good for this year. Progressive, he won his first start, won over course and distance. If you go back and watch that course and distance success, where again, they made use of a cutaway that day and he was ridden a bit for luck. I thought a £5 rise for that was fair. He got no luck in the mile race that Orban won at all. Not that I think his best trip is 7. And in fact, the stiff 7 in the Victoria Cup, he travelled quite nicely. And then I don't know whether he fully saw it out or not. I think at Goodwood, this distance at Goodwood is absolutely perfect for him. Just put a bit of a line through last time. I thought 13.0, he was a very big price. And drawn 7, I hope they do the sort of, particularly if there is no cutaway, the slingshot into the straight, which I quite like as a ride at Goodwood, rather than trying to go up the inner, because I think you can be on a hiding to nothing there. Same price for your selection, 13.0, Steve.
Yeah, Ascot Adventure, who was behind the Turpinator at Goodwood over this course and distance in June. But I'm not all that worried about that. Even though there was only 8 runners, he raced really wide. He got caught really wide and nothing really went right. He was favourite for that race. And I don't think that's him. And then last time at Doncaster, he ran really well. He was only beaten a couple of lengths by Yassir, and that was quite a competitive race, I thought. And it was also on ground a lot faster than he cares for. And he's another one that he's only run a few times. He hasn't. He was back from 2 months off last time, and I think that's purely because of the hot summer, and he just can't get ground. Now it's rained at Goodwood. It's going to be a lot easier. He won at Salisbury on soft last season. He was also slightly on the easier side when he won at Haydock in May. And I think that's the key to him. And a lot of the horses will be getting their toe in for the first time in a long time. And Ascot Adventure's one that will appreciate it. He's drawn in 3. Tarakid Bay is probably one that will try and go forward from 11 and come over and try and make the running. And I think that Ascot Adventure can slot in behind him. And he's got a really good chance. He's at the right end of the weights. And it is a competitive race, but I think he's overpriced. It's interesting that Don fancies Lyndon B. I interviewed Tim Gredley a few years ago. The Gredleys went through a spate of naming horses like after US presidents and prime ministers. Lyndon B. Johnson, that is, Tom, not Lyndon B. Brunel or anything like that. And I asked him whether he was going to name one Boris J. And he sort of looked at me as if to say, well, it would need a lot of headgear, tongue tie, and probably wouldn't do it any harm to be gelded either, would it? But anyway, I'm on Ascot Adventure.
Anyone have the spread at 25 minutes for a Jones crap story? Anybody? I think producer Dan was on 20. I was on 2 minutes, so you said we waited. Dan had 10.5. Fair enough. We all had a go, and we asked Adventure. Linda be the Turpinator. Good. Right, the Beverley Bullet. This is frightening because we all agree here. I feel like you have some sort of honourable ownership of King of Stars, Steve. So I'd like you to lead off. Like 10.0 is fair enough, isn't it? But then how's he going to find the £8 he needs to find with the favourite, Steve?
It's £8 on what?
Official rating.
Oh, official ratings. They don't mean anything. Enlisted races and Greek races. You mean? Is that those ones? Okay. The only thing you need to worry about with King of Stars is whether the ground dries up enough. Because if it's on the softish side, but it's not as soft as according to the official goings. I think it's good to soft in places with due and a sunny couple of days in a warm couple of days. So hopefully it will dry out. Now it's owned by Bill Esdale that a lot of us know in the press, and he's a good mate of mine. And he said to me, I wasn't at York, but he went up to watch it at York. And he said to me that a TV presenter approached him and said, oh, well, because King of Stars was beaten a short haired or something. And he says, the only thing you need to do with this horse, Bill, is to stop Steve Jones tipping it. Well, I didn't tip it at York, and it nearly bloody won.
That was me.
Oh, really?
Guilty.
This is a fast horse, King of Stars. This is a very, very fast horse. And if you can run off it was 98 when he was second in that red hot 5.5 furlong handicap at York. If you can run to that, then you're up to this sort of level. You only have to look at the previous Beverley Bullet kind of winners. It's not hard to step out of good handicaps and be competitive in this kind of race. The draw's nothing to worry about because nothing will lead this horse. He's just too quick. If you go back through the winners of this and also the good 5 furlong races at Beverley, it's very hard to come from off the pace, even though they tend to go fast and it's an uphill finish. But it's around a bend, and that often plays into the hands of front runners. And this horse is a front runner. He's definitely up to this level, in my opinion. and you've got him taking on horses that do like to come from off the pace. There's a lot of them that like to be held up, and they'll just give him too much rope because they won't be able to stop giving him rope because he's that quick. Tis Marvellous, last year's winner's got a real good chance, but he's coming off a bit of a break and hasn't really been at his best this season. So, yeah, if it dries out enough, King of Stars has got a great chance.
Donn McClean.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Steve just said there. That run at York, like it was a massive run, better than it looks even on paper, because he was drawn right towards the near side, and the 4 horses who filled the first 5 places with him, they all raced towards the far side. Nomadic Empire was drawn 15, so not too far away from him, but Jason Watson got him out and dropped him in and got him towards the far side. So he actually raced over towards the far side as well. So he did remarkably well, King of Stars, to get as close as he got from the near side, having to do a lot of racing without any company on the near side for much of the race. And Gatanfar, who also raced towards the near side, he did well. He finished close up 4th behind Summer Gahand a couple of days later at York. So proved that while the draw seemed to oscillate a wee bit at York during the week, definitely in that race, it looked like it was an advantage to be towards the far side. So King of Stars, in doing what he did, was a big run, and a £3 hike, I think, underestimates the worth of that run. And on his draw and stall line, like as Steve said, he's going to be out and going forward early anyway. It used to be a race in which it was difficult to win from a higher draw, but Take Cover won from stall 9 a few years ago. Dakota Gold won from 8. Last year, Tis Marvellous won from 6, I think. And Tis Marvellous, you can understand why he's favoured, last year's winner, and he's actually, back to official ratings, he's rated higher than he was last year. But again, as Steve says, he came into the race last year on the back of a win in the Shergar Cup and the Shergar Cup Dash. He hasn't run this year since he finished down the field in the King's Stand. Obviously a much better race, but the fact that he was well beaten, and he just doesn't come into the race in the same form that he was in last year. Corker, you have to respect, he needs to get away a wee bit more quickly than he has been of late. He was well beaten by Royal Acclaim last time. Royal Acclaim, she was probably just wasn't able to lie up with the fast horses in the Nunthorpe last time. But actually, King of Stars has the beating of Corker on a line through McCanna. So I think there are plenty of strands to the case for King of Stars, and yeah, I thought he'd be shorter.
Yeah, the other thing, Don's absolutely spot on with the draw at York. He was drawn very high, and it was all going on the far side, and he drifted from that one of the highest draws into not just the middle of the track, the far side, but that was intentional. Sylvester de Souza said he felt his wheels were spinning a bit early on, and he wanted to get him into what he considered the fastest part of the track. So although he looked like he was hanging at York, he actually wasn't. That was a move that Sylvester de Souza thought that he had to make because the ground was quicker in the middle, and he obviously likes quick ground.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to these comments on King of Stars. He's a big price based upon how unlucky he's been. Not the ideal jockey for him at Ascot. He's definitely unlucky last time. And as Steve said, I think particularly in this division, you don't have as much to find to make it up into a pattern company sprinter if you're already a decent handicapper. So King of Stars for me. Let's move on to undoubtedly the most disappointing race of the weekend, the March Stakes. Goodness me, Hu Yamal isn't going to take much beating. So you've got Hu Yamal in there, you've got Perfect Alibi, you've got Anamato, and you've got Pink Fire Lily. So if I remember correctly, we're all pretty much sitting this out. I know, Steve, you've got a selection in there. You're not taking the 1.3 about Hu Yamal. You're looking elsewhere, but you're not officially against Hu Yamal, are you?
Yeah, I'm backing something else.
Well, no, but you're not laying.
No, I'm not laying Hu Yamal because he's the best horse in the race. But
you can see, look, who's watching. So I've written yuck, just because that's the sort of race it is.
Yeah, it is.
Paul John Dunlop. Like, imagine having this race run in your memory. The legendary trainer, and you get this utter nonsense of a race. Sorry, Steve, go on.
When it comes to it, we'll have a whip round and make sure it's a better race when it's the Tom Stanley race.
Quite
Don't
right.
worry. Yeah. Who you miles the best
Yeah,
horse in the race? Runner up in the
Don't die
Derby.
for quite some time, Steve. Put a bit of a dampener on that.
Don't worry, we'll all chip in when the time comes. So he was second in the Derby, 150 to 1, where he just picked up the pieces. Some didn't get a run, some went off too fast. He was ridden in the rear. He was ridden in the rear again when he was third in the Gordon, which, although is very good form, Jack Darcy was behind him, ran well in France the other day. And it is the best form. He's stepping up in distance to 1 mile and 6. Yeah, he should get it because they bought him to run in the Melbourne Cup. But if he's held up off the pace in a 4-runner race and he gives perfect alibi, he was likely to lead because she did last time when she won a Fillies handicap at Newbury. And before that, she'd won another 1.5 mile race at Newbury, a maiden, which turned out to be all right. In fact, it was better all right because Eternal Pearl was one of the Fillies she beat, who's won a Group 3 at Deauville. And in between then, she didn't run very well at Royal Ascot, but you can forgive it that. If she gets just into a nice rhythm out in front, she might be able to hold on. She's probably not as good as Who You Mel, but that's not always the case, is it? So I'm going to just throw a few quid, nothing silly, but perfect alibi, purely because she'll get the run of the race and she'll like the softer ground.
Moving on to the 3:15 at Newmarket. This is an interesting little race, this. So it's a listed race, which sees Great Ambassador stepping up into listed company 5.0, 6.0 for Dane, 7.5 for Manakan, Summergan 7.5, as is the Dream. Bigger price is the rest. Don?
Yeah, Great Ambassador. I think you're chairman of the Great Ambassador fan club, Tom, aren't you? But I'm with you on this one. I just think
I am. Yeah, he's another one that's been really unlucky. I think. Yeah. I actually just think the smaller field might just help.
Yeah, but even last time in the Stewards Cup, like he was drawn on the far side. He did best of the far side horses. He finished off his race well. He got into a wee bit of traffic as well. I thought he did really well to get as close as he did from over there. And it was similar in the Stewards Cup last year. He was drawn on the wrong side. And it was the same story in the Ergol Cup, actually, when Bielsa came down the near side on his own. And Great Ambassador, won the race on the far side, got the better of Mr. Wagyu over there. And yeah, he's just an unlucky horse. He's got good form at Goodwood. We know that he goes well there. He's won there over the course and distance as well as the Stewards Cup runs. And even I know he was pretty well beaten in the Hackwood Stakes, but and that was just a Group 3, but it was a very, very warm Group 3 race. So I think you can allow him that. And that was he's only had 3 runs this season so far. He finished off the season really well last year, beating Tabdid at York and then running that big race in the Ergol Cup. He seems to have retained his form or maybe even improved from last season to this season. And yeah, there's plenty to like about him. Dana is very interesting. She obviously hasn't run this year yet. She's only had her 3 runs as a juvenile, and she was only just beaten by Mise en Scène in the Prestige Stakes at this meeting last year. I mean, Mise en Scène probably hasn't enhanced that form since, but Prosperous Voyage was back in 3rd, and she's obviously run a big race in the Guineas and beaten in Spiral in the Falmouth Stakes, albeit probably below form in Spiral. But that race has worked out well. It's just, you can't know how Dana has progressed from 2 to 3, so it's impossible to know where to put her into the market. Summer Gahan, he's the opposite. He ran really well, did well to win at York last time, and he brings a good level of form into the race. But yeah, I think Great Ambassador deserves to win a good race like this, and yeah, I think he's got a big chance.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you look at Great Ambassador is rated 106, for example. Obviously, this is a listed company. Is giving away £3 to a horse like Manakan. I appreciate Dane, like you say, is a hard filly to pitch where she's at, but and we haven't seen her for such a long time. I don't really want to back her. But Manakan is rated 105, and that's off the back of a win last time of 101 in the Shergar Cup race. You get £4 for that. I mean, I think that's harsh. Whereas, Great Ambassador finished 2nd in an Air Gold Cup and went up £2. And then I know on reappearance at Ascot it didn't work out. That was in the top level company. It was a very strong Group 3 at Newbury. and then was unlucky again at Goodwood in the Stewards Cup last time. I think his performances in handicaps, finishing second in the Air Gold Cup off 106 and running well last time off 107 and then being eased a pound, are far superior to what Manakan's been doing in handicap company. And you know, you look at their bare ratings, and just probably backing up what Steve says about official ratings, Great Ambassador is more than a pound better horse than Manakan. He has to be because he's giving him 3, but I think he's a very fair price at the top of the betting, Great Ambassador. Steve?
Yeah, I'm again going in sort of on the angle that the ground's going to be softer than we've seen so far for a long time. And that will suit Vadream of Charlie Fellows. And this horse hasn't been in particularly good form this season, but has been running in good races behind Highfield Princess, Naval Crown. And last time at Deauville, that wasn't a particularly great effort, but was probably sat a little bit too close to the fast pace. That won't be a problem at Newmarket because you want to be somewhere near it. But if you go back to last season and certainly the back end, the Vadream would have an excellent chance. And it was interesting that the last win of Vadream came after a trip to Deauville last summer when beating Kings Lynn at Ascot in a Group 3 and had some good horses behind, including some of those that are running this afternoon or on Saturday. And if you go back through Vadream's career, this is the first listed race. It's been group races all the way since Vadream made her debut, and she ran in the Guineas. She finished third behind Alcohol Free in the Fred Darling, and since switching to sprints, she's done really well. But albeit the back end of last season, she was fifth in the Group 1 on Champions Day behind Creative Force and Glen Shield, and she actually finished a place in front of Highfield Princess that day. So she's been taking on some really good horses. She's got cheek pieces on for the first time. You've got to take it on trust that she's still as good as she was last year. But if she is, she's got a really good chance. And at the prices, I'm willing to take that chance.
2 shouts for Great Ambassador, 1 for Vadream for Steve. Okay, we are finishing up with a Celebration Mile. Modest enough renewal, but right at the top of the betting is Mutasabek, who was a bit disappointing in the race last year, although sent off a much bigger price. So 5.5 that day is 2.25 today. 5.5 for Jabdumi. Escobar is 6.5. Finest Sound 8.5. 11.0. Stormy Antarctic. Steve and I have a similar opinion about the favourite. So, Don, you can kick us off.
Obviously, I have the opposite opinion. It's kind of been a process of elimination, really, Tom. With Mutasabek, I think he's a horse. He promised an awful lot. Remember when he won the maiden at Newmarket, he was sent off at a relatively or a very short price for the Guineas, 6-1. I think he was sent off for the Guineas on the back of that run, and he just hasn't quite gone and fulfilled that yet. But I thought his run last time in the Summer Mile was a good run. He looked a winner actually when he probably hit the front just inside the furlong marker on the run to the furlong marker, and he was worried out of it by Chinde. But it was a good run by him, and it was a good bounce back to form in the Bet365 Mile on his first run this season. Sorry, his second run this season after running out an impressive thirst. He was a wee bit lucky. He kind of caught in the pocket. He had to come out, and then by the time he got the lights on, had gone here on the far side, and he did get close to her, close home, but he was a bit unlucky in that one. And coming on here, he's still a relatively lightly raced horse. It is a wee bit of a concern that he disappointed in the race last year, but I don't think this is as good a race as last year's race was. And I think he's worth another chance, given that I just think there's plenty more to come from him. Escobar, you have to love Escobar, but he seems to, he always, in my head, is that he's a Goodwood horse. He runs well at Goodwood, but looking back there this morning, he's never won there. He's run there 10 times and never won there. So his run the last day at York was as good a run as he's put up in quite some time, when Blue For You just got out in time and just got up to beat him. But I think he's probably at his best in a big field with a fast pace and passing horses. Finest Sound is interesting, but he's a horse that I think we kind of know how good he is, and I think Mutasabek has the potential to just go a wee bit beyond what he's done so far and go and beat him. And Jadumi, again, won and in France last time, the filly that he beat into second place, Burgerita, has been beaten since. So yeah, I just think not with any massive conviction, and I know he's short, but I think Mutasabek is the most likely winner.
Okay, and then Steve and I are against. Well, I know we're putting up as a lane. We'll come to that. First of all, your selection, Steve.
Yeah, I was tempted by Escobar, but he does need things to drop right, and he'll pop up one day. But Stormy Antarctic is mine. The oldest horse in the field by quite a long way. And he's another one that does need some things to drop right. But he does like Goodwood, and he does like softer ground. And he's not had much racing this season. So he also got quite a good record when he's returning from a bit of a break. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's going down to a mile again. He stays a bit further. But I think the two Crisford horses will try and dominate this between them. And I think they might just set a decent gallop because they both want a bit further. And if Stormy Antarctic's in the mood, it would only be a small bet. But after 3 months off, I think he's definitely got a chance. So I'm going to chance him. I am against the favourite, Mutasabek. I'm not convinced by his profile too much. I thought Chindit is if you're allowing Chindit to beat you, I think you got a few problems. So although he's another one that will go on the softer ground, I wasn't convinced at the price, to be honest, especially as he was well beaten in it last year. So it was purely on the price thing. He's around 2.0, I think 2.2. I'd be happy to lay him there because I think it wouldn't surprise me if any of them won, to be honest. But I'm going to take a chance with Stormy Antarctic.
Yeah, it's not a great renewal, is it? I suppose the issue I have with Mutasabek really is last year when they all finished in a bit of a heap, and maybe it was a better race last year on paper, though it was won by Lavender's Blue. It probably was, but I just struggled to be with a horse that was beaten that easily last year. Although I take the point he was a 3-year-old last year and he's a year older, but then he won a soft ground race at Thirsk, and then since then I don't know. There's just something about him that doesn't convince me. He is definitely the most likely winner. It would just be a small lay. We have a lay section, and that's who I'm putting up. But it wouldn't be like crazy against. It would just be a small lay against Mutasabek, mainly given what he did last year, and the fact that I do think there's a chance that Jadumi could just be a better horse. The concern is he's obviously a fragile horse, but at least last time he was back in the winner's enclosure. Whatever the form was worth, I don't really know, but I quite liked him up until that point. He even ran well on his reappearance back in October last year, I thought, behind Zakuski at Newmarket, and I know he's behind Stormy Antarctic that day, but that was off the back of a long old time off the track. I think he will go forward. And I don't think Finer Sand will be too far away either, but I quite like that. I quite like it when two horses from the same yard go forward because I do think they can control it from the front. So hopefully they won't do anything silly anyway. So small win Jadumi, small lay Mutasabek. Anything to add, gentlemen? No. Okay. We're going on to any other bets. Don, you've got one in the Snow Fairy at the Curragh, the 340 on Saturday. I don't have any prices in front of me at the moment. Who is it?
Yeah, it depends how the bet, Tom. And look, you'd love to see Magic Chicago going and winning this for Brian Duffy. He's got 4 horses in his yard. He brought Magic Chicago over to Galway and won the big Colin Quinn BMW Mile with her. So, and look, she's a player. She deserves to take a chance in a listed or a group race, a Group 3 race. This is. I think Saysai might be favoured, and she ran well at Naas on her penultimate run when she was a wee bit unlucky and did well to get within a half a length of Galleria Borghese, and then was only just beaten by Lily Pond last time in the Kilboy Estates race, a Group 2 race. Lily Pond then went and ran in the Beverley D Stakes, I think. But Juncture is the one that I think might be the most interesting here. She was a really good juvenile last season. She won well at Dundalk, a listed race on her debut this season. Then she ran in the Guineas, and she wasn't a mad for the Guineas. But then after running well, a handicap at the Curragh and Guineas weekend, She had a bit of a break. She came back in the Desmond Stakes last time, and I thought did really well to get as close as she got to Boundless Ocean, who's a very talented horse of Jim Bolger's. Probably doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, but the two of them finished well clear. She kept on well. She got to within a half a length, 3/4 of a length of him, and I think the slight step up and trip should suit her up to 1 mile and a furlong from 1 mile. Comes into the race fresher than most. I think she could step forward from that run at Leopardstown last time, and yeah, I think she's one of the most interesting fillies in the race.
So you expect her to be second in the betting? I mean, I take it if she opens up a warm favourite, you wouldn't necessarily be with.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of figure in mind, or is it just that you'd want to have her at a bigger price against Seisai?
Yeah, I'd say Seisai will probably just shade. I'd say that the two of them will head the market, and Magic Chicago will be behind them. But I think they might put in Seisai as favourite. And look, she's a very likeable filly. She went into my tracker after her penultimate run at Naas when she was only just beaten and didn't have a lot of luck in running in the race. But I think we're kind of getting to know what level Seisai is at, and Juncture just has the potential to improve past her.
All right, let's move on to Lays. We know best Lays. Both Steve and I are against Mutasabek. Do you want to flesh that out in any way, Steve?
No, just like I mentioned before, it's just price, really. I think when I was looking at it, I'd always try and look at these races without seeing the betting. And I was pretty surprised that the horse in that field, that looked at much of a muchness, was so short. So I'm happy to take him on because I think any of them could win. I went for Stormy Antarctic, but it wouldn't surprise me if any of them won.
All right, best bets. I'm with you on that one, Steve, incidentally, although small stakes, small lay. Best bets. I'll kick off with Queen Ollie, who I thought should be a good bit shorter in that prestige based on what she has achieved. For I know she's rated officially lower than the Godolphin filly. I think there's a case that she should be rated, if not as good, and I think she'll improve for the step up in trip. So Queen Ollie in the prestige for me. John, your best bet?
Yeah, Lyndon B in the 7 furlong handicap at Goodwood. Tom, just for a lot of the reason I line earlier, he is at Goodwood where he's run 3 times, run really well and up to occasion. He won last time. He got a £5 hike for that, but that takes him up to a mark of 87, which is still £3 lower than his highest winning mark. So yeah, I think he's overpriced.
And Steve Jones, your best bet, sir?
I'm going to go for Tangled, winning place in the first at Beverley. Should get a decent pace to run out. That's the Joe Rowntree Memorial Race. Top man, Joe.
Cheers, Steve. Cheers, Don. I think we're there. Don't forget to head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all the best bets. Dan Hussey will be the man sorting all that out for you up there. And watch episode 1 of The Other Side of the Fence with new Matchbook ambassador Ollie Murphy for an insight behind the scenes. That's on our YouTube channel. Steve, Don, thank you. See you all again soon. Bye-bye.